When Ace left the Goa Kingdom to become a great pirate, he had 4 potential paths to take. In One Piece, we saw an incredibly tragic one, but there were other options were it not for ever so tiny twists of fate could have changed the outcome of the entire world. I have a question for you. What was Ace's ambition? To make Whitebeard the Pirate King? Yes, true, but what was his goal before that? Well, according to Luffy's flashback, it was to, quote, be a pirate and win, win, win. Okay, also true, but what was his specific goal after that, but before the Whitebeard one? Well, in Novel Ace, this stupidly important piece of information is revealed. These books are actually really good, and they give a much better picture of Ace than the manga does, in my opinion. And if you don't like reading words exclusively, look, I get it. Sometimes entering a monogamous relationship with words just isn't your thing. And if that is the case, these novels were also adapted into manga chapters illustrated by Boichi. They're highly recommended, but essentially, Ace and the Spade Pirates visit Fishman Island. There it's revealed that Ace now has 100 million berry bounty. It's all very exciting. And to celebrate, they go to a cheap cafe. It's specifically noted in the book that the cafe is cheap. And it would be here that Ace declared his ambition for the new world. Ace stated that he was going to take down each of the 4 emperors before promptly burning Whitebeard's flag on Fishman Island. Now, we know how this ultimately ended. Ace targeted Whitebeard, so he ended up losing his ambition, but he ended up gaining a father, you know, that thing that he'd never had. But Ace's path to Whitebeard was pure chance, because Ace's strategy was all about Eustace kidding his way to victory. It didn't matter which emperor he encountered first in the wild, Ace was gonna fight it. So what would happen if instead of Whitebeard, Ace encountered Big Mom, Kaido, or Shanks? It's interesting because one of those emperors he did encounter, and we'll get to that, and he invaded the home territory of another, but Kaido was out of the house at the time, assumedly purchasing copious quantities of leather to make very scandalous outfits for his crew. But let me introduce you to the Spade Pirates. First up, we have Captain Portgasty Ace, a man who needs no introduction, so actually we should probably edit that out. And second in command is a character you may be familiar with. His name is Masked Juice. Ace met him on the island of Sixus in East Blue, and they became good friends after Ace hit a giant bird with a giant sword. Also on Sixus is where they both ate the Merimero no Mi together, but only Ace got the powers because he was slightly faster to consume and assumedly excrete the fruit product. We then have Skull, who is a pirate fanboy, and his hobby is stowing away on ships because he loves him some pirating. And due to wearing the skull, he has 2 sets of front teeth. There's also Miha. He has a nice hat and he wants to be an educator. And next to him we have Saber. He also has a nice hat but does not want to be an educator. Behind them we spot Banshee, who's actually a mermaid and is both the cook and not the cook of the Spade Pirates. The Spade Pirates didn't actually have a cook, but at the same time Banshee made all their meals, so they did not have a cook, but they did, but they didn't. There's the all-important Aggie 88, although it's unknown what happened to Aggies 1 through 67, and of course Komatsu, a literal panther who likes being around Ace because fire is warm. And there's also some others. I can't afford to get my artist to draw all of them. If you want to help that, then please do feel free to buy a shirt from storegLR.com, but for now let's just pretend that they're also here. It's important to establish these guys though, because Ace's story in the actual manga is mostly devoid of the Spade Pirates, and in flashbacks it often looks like Ace is just going off and doing things on his own. But he's not. He has a crew. He had a crew. He had a very good crew that got him all the way into the New World. So with that, we're going to start with the Kaido path. Here the Spade Pirates enter the New World, and the first emperor they encounter is red-haired Shanks. Ace quite deliberately hunts Shanks down first because he wants to thank Shanks for being just being a generally good dude and inspiring his little brother and all of that. Although in the anime, this scene is infamous because the animators gave Shanks 2 arms, which he should not have, and for no real purpose either because his missing arm is just flopped in his crotch, looming menacingly over his man parts. But this is very similar to what happened when Luffy formed an alliance with Trafalgar Law. Luffy agreed to take down all 4 emperors on the condition that Shanks isn't first. Not that he refuses to ever fight Shanks, but Luffy just wants to save him for later. And that's what happens here with Ace. He has a lovely evening with Shanks and his assorted scallywags, but just as Luffy did, Ace immediately set his sights on Kaido. And in fact, the very next piece of information we have about the Spade Pirates is them washing up on Wano. They spent some time making hats in Amigasa village. Ace allegedly groomed Tama by promising to take her with him once she became bewitching enough. But this was an opportunity. Ace and the Spade Pirates then made their way to Onigashima to confront Kaido, and also to free some abducted children, but also to do the thing it is that Ace wanted to do. Here he was met with Yamato, who said, "My father and his men are on an expedition. You won't find a single officer on this island." But in this case, Kaido is not out, and Yamato is going to say, "My father and his men are here, right here. You'll find each and every single officer on this island." And to that, Ace is going to say, "Cheers," and the Spade Pirates will conduct their own raid on Onigashima. And Yamato might even join join them because, well, why not? In the actual series, Yamato decides to fight Ace out of boredom, so when given the opportunity to do something I would call undeniably Oden-esque, I feel like Yamato is gonna join the fun. However, the Spade Pirates, even with Yamato, are simply ill-equipped to deal with the full force of the Beast Pirates, or really even a small fraction of that force. I mean, none of the lower members are gonna be an issue, but when we work our way up to the Jacks, Queens, and Kings of the world, it's difficult to see Ace being able to overcome one of them, much less all three. One good way to set Ace's level at this point in the world timeline is to think about Jinbei. Ace fought Jinbei to a standstill, and a lot of that, yes, is going to come down to elemental counters. The old water versus fire, they had that going on, but they were roughly on the same level of skill. So I am going to go out on a limb and say that Ace could probably beat Jack, if only because everyone else has. Jack has never actually won a fight in the series, and I do not see that streak being broken here. Just realize that Jack is kind of like the opposite to Katakuri. Katakuri never lost a fight, Jack never won a fight. But realistically, the Spade Pirates have no chance. Because look at this, best case scenario, right? Kaido orders everyone to stay put, and he, for the thrill of fight battling, allows Ace to engage him in a 1v1. Even in that best case scenario, it's still not working out for Ace. He and the Spade Pirates are going to be beaten, captured, and probably put to work in Udon Prison. What we definitely know is that Kaido will not kill Ace, because it was said by Hawkins that Kaido deliberately preserves the lives of men with strong wills in order to break them and put them to work serving him, Kaido. So that's going to be Kaido's pet project for the next 4 years or so. And the rest of the Spade Pirates will be put to work much like Kid's crew when they were captured. Kaido will threaten to kill Ace, and poor Komatsu the Panther will be a very, very distraught cat, and no one's gonna have a good time at all. It's not a great ending for the Spade Pirates, Ace himself, or Wano as a whole actually, because if Ace never escapes Wano, which I highly doubt he would do on his own, he would take his crew with him, but I also highly doubt that he would do that to begin with, because good old never runaway Ace would probably just break out, challenge Kaido again, be defeated again, and rinse and repeat. And if he's spending all of his time here, then Ace doesn't have the opportunity to join Whitebeard's crew and die at Marineford. So Luffy won't join the Paramount War. In fact, there won't actually be a Paramount War to join. Luffy and his crew will be separated on Sabaody, Rayleigh won't deliver his proposition, and the Straw Hats will come together a few days later to enter the New World, where they will almost certainly get eviscerated. Meanwhile, Kaido will be using Ace as a fire source to boil pot after pot of delicious Oden to execute people in, and thus we reach the stew ending. Not amazing, so let's rewind. The Spade Pirates enter the New World, and the first emperor they encounter is red-haired Shanks. Ace thanks him for being a good dude, Shanks puts his hand in his crotch, and a good time is had by all, and the Spade Pirates move on. However, in this scenario, they are placed on the Big Mom path. Some informations are acquired that lead the Spade Pirates to Totterland, which is perfectly reasonable as, in the New World, it actually takes less time to get to Totterland than it does to Wano from the Red Line. Now, Totterland is a very different empire from Wano. This is a series of islands as opposed to one main location, and Big Mom is also a very different emperor from Kaido. Where Kaido seeks battle, Big Mom seeks tasty, tasty treats. And if she hears of some no-name pirates causing havoc in one of her assorted treat towns, she's gonna send her horde of endless charlatans after them. And that's a pun because most of them are actually named Charlotte. But even at this stage, Big Mom already has all 85 of her children. The youngest of which is Charlotte Inanna, who is only 4 years old at this point, but we are not lacking in problem-solving options. Although I imagine that the first aren't gonna go particularly well. If we try and combat the Spade Pirates with a brulee, a Mont d'Or, or dare I even say some sort of opera, then it's going to be a Spade Pirate victory. There are some genuine threats in the mid-level of the Big Mom Pirates, such as Baron Tamago, who has a stunningly high bounty of 429 million berries. 329 million than Ace's current bounty, but look, that's fine. At this stage, Ace is very undervalued, and at all stages, Tamago is significantly overvalued. Speaking of stages, I imagine that Ace will either boil or grill Tamago, depending on whether he's an egg or a chicken. But something we haven't spoken about before now, something that could come in quite handy here, is Ace's control of Conqueror's Haki. In the actual One Piece, we only get to see him use it accidentally as a child, and if we go by the novels, he's never particularly amazing at it, and in fact, it's only in the manga adaptation of the novel that Ace purposely uses Conqueror's Haki on Hammond, of all people. Remember Hammond? I do. I remember when the Straw Hats first got to Fishman Island and we encountered Hammond right before entering. When that chapter came out, people lost their minds. It was all like, whoa, Hammond! You look at this guy. He's controlling all of the sea beasts. He's gonna be the big bad guy of the arc. Luffy versus Hammond, calling it now. Whereas these days, I honestly don't even remember what happened to him. Actually, is he the one who got clutched by one of Robin's clones? I think so. No, it was 2 clones. I don't know. I also don't care. Because no one should have ever cared about Hammond. But let's get back to Ace. Because if he can use Conqueror's Haki on command, then it's gonna make Whole Cake Island a lot easier, and it may even give him a slight chance of standing up to Katakuri, because the real problem is obviously the Sweet Commanders. The absolute best case scenario for Ace is to encounter Charlotte Snack. He's not at all to be underestimated, but we do know that he is very defeatable because he was dispatched by Mad Monk Rouge, a rookie who had a bounty of 108 million berries, and Ace is at a very similar level of both bounty and rookiedom. And as far as we're aware, Snack doesn't have a Devil Fruit ability. I mean, he probably does. It would be weird if he was one of the only top members without one, but we don't know what it is, if indeed it is. So Ace, I think, could feasibly defeat him. However, that triggers a whole new problem that Mad Monk Rouge could not overcome. When Luffy beat Cracker, that invoked the wrath of the entire Big Mom Pirates. Once a Sweet Commander is beaten, we're not messing around anymore. And this is where your Smoothies, your Katakuris, and in this case, your Cracker Biscuit men are going to get involved. And Ace, look, he probably has a decent matchup against Cracker. Biscuits are notoriously susceptible to heat, although heat is also how biscuits are created, but too much heat is how biscuits are destroyed. That and eating them. Smoothie is a much trickier affair though. She kind of presents a Jinbei-esque counter to Ace's Devil Fruit by being able to extract and wield liquids forcibly excreted from anything. In fact, thinking about it, Jinbei and Smoothie would probably be a one-piece dream team. Smoothie creates liquid, Jinbei fights with it. It's a very solid match. But with all that we know about Smoothie, and to be clear, that isn't much, Ace could feasibly defeat her maybe. However, then we get to Katakuri, and I don't see any way out of this for Ace. At this stage, and quite possibly at any stage of his life, Ace just is not equipped to face Katakuri. He has future sight, a solid mastery of armament haki, and far more control over Conqueror's haki than Ace has at this point, if Ace has any control, which is unconfirmed. This past Katakuri is our counterjack. At this stage, Katakuri has never lost a fight in his life, and he is not gonna start now. So I don't think that Ace will even have the opportunity to face Big Mom himself. Even if he did, it's not going well. But more likely Katakuri or a combination of Sweet Commanders are gonna bring him down. Like Kaido, Big Mom isn't going to kill Ace or the Spade Pirates though, at least not yet. What they're gonna do, right, is they're gonna spin Big Mom's funky roulette wheel to decide their fates. And when it came down to Pedro and Zeppo, who did this a year prior to Ace's invasion, their collective result was 100 years, which Zeppo paid 30 of, Pecoms bartered 10 years away, and then Pedro bartered a further 10 years away by gouging out his eye so that he only paid 50 years. What a bargain. I think the only way that the Spade Pirates are in trouble here is if they land on one of the 1,000 year options, but it could be as low as 10 years shared between them, or even just a limb from one of them. And whatever the case, I see Ace paying the price first and foremost, even if it kills him, but there's actually 20 Spade Pirates. So with a 100 year option, they could probably tank 5 years each, and with 1,000 years, they'd each have to take on 20, but that's not the end of the world. Most of them would then be evicted from Whole Cake Island with their lives at the very least, at which point Big Mom will then go and use that life to power some homies. And what I'm picturing here is part of Ace's soul being inserted into a donut homie, which Charlotte Katakuri is desperately going to try not to eat because Ace is now a delicious forbidden donut, and thus we reach the donut ending. Also not amazing, so let's rewind. The Spade Pirates enter the New World, and there's Shanks. He's a good dude, but his very present missing hand is grabbing his crotch. Ace is thoroughly insulted by this, and after some polite chit-chat, Ace declares that he will defeat Shanks right here and now as part of his 4 Emperor checklist. This is the Shanks path. But Shanks, he's a pretty cool dude, so he's gonna do the pirate equivalent of spanking a child. If Ace is very lucky, he'll even get to keep all of his limbs and move on with his life, eventually reaching Whitebeard, Blackbeard, Sakazuki, and thus we reach the original donut ending. Yet, not gonna lie, Ace has it pretty rough in One Piece. In the past, I've referred to him as the man who was born to die. In the same way that everything in this world works for Luffy, everything works against Ace. So please, all of you, raise your hands in the appropriate military fashion of your particular nation as we offer a 21 donut salute to the doomed life of Portgas D. Ace.